Is China outsmarting Trump's tariffs with a bold move in Vietnam? Picture this. Vietnam's economy is booming, a rising star in global trade. But now, they're caught in a high-stakes tug-of-war. On one side, President Donald Trump's slapping a 46% tariff on Vietnamese exports, threatening to choke their growth. On the other, China's Xi Jinping is rolling into Hanoi with a charm offensive, signing deals to pull Vietnam closer. It's April 2025 and Vietnam's walking a geopolitical tightrope, stuck between Trump's trade hammer and Xi's open wallet. Welcome to a global trade chess game where every move counts. Can Vietnam stay neutral, or will they have to pick a side? Let's dive in. Vietnam's in a tough spot. Their economy's been a superstar, growing fast as a manufacturing hub for everything from sneakers to smartphones. Last year it ran a $123 billion trade surplus with the United States, their biggest market, fueling 30% of their GDP. But that success has put Vietnam in the crosshairs of two superpowers pulling they in opposite directions. Let's start with Trump's tariffs. In early April 2025, Trump unleashed his Liberation Day tariffs, a 10% baseline on all U.S. imports, but a punishing 46% on Vietnam and a staggering 245% on China. Why? Trump says it's about protecting American jobs and stopping countries from dumping cheap goods. He's especially targeting Vietnam for allegedly acting as a backdoor for Chinese products, relabeled as made in Vietnam, to dodge U.S. tariffs. These tariffs could devastate Vietnam's export-driven economy, potentially slashing growth and spiking unemployment. But here's the other side. China's Xi Jinping sees an opportunity. Just days after Trump's tariff pause on April 9th, giving Vietnam a 90-day reprieve. Xi landed in Hanoi on April 14th, penning dozens of deals on railways, tech, and trade. It's no coincidence. Xi's pitching China as a stable partner, a lifeline for Vietnam's economy amid U.S. pressure. But there's a catch. Leaning too close to China risks tensions over the South China Sea, where Vietnam and China have clashed over territory for years. So the big question is, caught between a trade war and a charm offensive, how does Vietnam choose? To understand Vietnam's dilemma, let's break down Trump's tariffs. A tariff is a tax on imported goods, designed to make foreign products pricier so U.S. companies can compete. Trump's 46% tariff on Vietnam targets their $31.4 billion in exports to the U.S., think electronics, apparel, and footwear. His 245% tariff on China aims to cripple Beijing's trade, accusing they of unfair practices like subsidies and intellectual property theft. Trump's using a legal tool called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or Emergency Trade Powers, to impose these tariffs without Congress. His logic? Countries with big trade surpluses, like Vietnam's $123 billion with the U.S., are taking advantage of America. He wants Vietnam to crack down on Chinese goods transshipped through their ports and buy more U.S. products like LNG or ethanol. The upside? Tariffs could boost U.S. industries. Trump's first-term tariffs on steel created 8,000 jobs by 2019. The United Auto Workers cheered his 2025 auto tariffs, expecting more factories stateside. But there's a cost. Tariffs raise prices. Goldman Sachs estimates they could add $3,500 a year to U.S. household expenses, hitting everything from phones to groceries. Vietnam's economy, meanwhile, faces a potential 2% GDP hit if the 46% tariff sticks. It's a bold play, but it's rattling global markets. Trump's betting that pressure will force Vietnam to negotiate better trade terms. But his pause on tariffs, except for China, shows he's willing to deal. The question is, will Vietnam bend to U.S. demands, or look elsewhere for relief? Enter Xi Jinping, stage left. On April 14th, Xi arrived in Hanoi, greeted by Vietnam's Communist Party leader, Ta Lam. The timing was perfect. Vietnam's reeling from Trump's tariffs, and Xi's offering a lifeline. The two nations signed around 40 deals, covering railways, artificial intelligence, green energy, and supply chains. One standout, an $8.3 billion railway project linking northern Vietnam to China, partly funded by Chinese loans. These deals strengthen Vietnam's role in China's supply chain, making it a key hub for goods that might otherwise face U.S. tariffs. Xi's pitch is clear. China's a reliable partner, unlike the unilateral bullying of Trump's tariffs. In an article in Vietnam's Nhan Dan newspaper, Xi wrote, "There are no winners in trade wars," urging Hanoi to resist protectionism. China's trade with Vietnam surged 14.6% in 2024, And ASEAN, led by Vietnam, is now China's largest trading partner with $146 billion in exports last quarter. Xi's visit isn't just about economics, it's about pulling Vietnam into Beijing's orbit as a counter to US influence. But Vietnam's not all in with China. They're playing a clever game. To appease Trump, Vietnam's cracking down on Chinese goods transshipped to the US, approving US tech like Starlink, and offering to buy more American goods. At the same time, they're cozying up to China to hedge their bets. Why? Because leaning too far toward Beijing risks escalating tensions in the South China Sea, where Vietnam's fought Chinese Coast Guard ships over disputed waters. It's a masterclass in diplomatic juggling. So, how are Trump's tariffs and Xi's diplomacy redrawing the global trade map? Let's zoom out. Trump's strategy is to force countries like Vietnam to choose, align with US trade rules or face economic pain. His tariffs aim to bring manufacturing back to America, but he's pushing Southeast Asia into a corner. Vietnam, Cambodia, hit with 49% tariffs, and Malaysia, 24%, are scrambling to negotiate with the US during the 90-day pause. If they can't secure lower tariffs, they might turn to China for stability. Xi's tour, Vietnam, Malaysia, Cambodia, is a strategic countermove. By signing deals and casting China as a defender of free trade, Xi's building a bloc that could challenge US influence in ASEAN, which accounts for 17% of China's exports. A stronger China-Vietnam partnership could shift supply chains away from the US, weakening Washington's leverage in the region. Analysts like Julian Evans Pritchard from Capital Economics warn that Chinese goods are already flooding ASEAN markets, with transshipment routes likely to be Trump's next target. But it's not checkmate yet. Vietnam's hedging, balancing US concessions with Chinese deals, shows they wants to stay neutral. Other ASEAN nations like Malaysia are following suit, wary of China's South China Sea claims but needing their investment. The US still holds cards. It's Vietnam's biggest export market, and Trump's openness to deals, like exemptions for smartphones and chips, suggests flexibility. The risk? If tariffs push ASEAN too far into China's arms, the US could lose clout in a region critical to countering Beijing's rise. Let's wait and see. Will ASEAN tilt toward China, or can the US win back the board? As the trade war intensifies, Vietnam's tightrope walk gets trickier. Trump's 46% tariff threatens their economic dreams, while Xi's deals offer a lifeline, but at the cost of deeper ties to a neighbor they don't fully trust. Vietnam's strategy is to play both sides, negotiate with the US for lower tariffs, maybe 22 to 28% per insiders, while locking in China's investment. But this balancing act isn't easy. South China Sea tensions could flare, and US pressure might force Vietnam to pick a side. Globally, this chess game could reshape alliances. A China-Vietnam bloc might pull ASEAN away from the US, especially if tariffs persist. But if Trump secures deals, say by exempting more Vietnamese goods, he could keep Vietnam in play. For now, the 90-day tariff pause is a countdown. Data paints a stark picture. Tariffs could cost US consumers $3,500 a year, while China's trade with Vietnam grows, potentially by another 10% in 2025. Can Vietnam stay neutral, or will they have to choose? History says small nations can outmaneuver giants, but the stakes have never been higher. What do you think? Can Vietnam keep both sides happy, or is a choice inevitable? Drop your take in the comments. Vietnam's caught in a trade war storm, with Trump's tariffs and Xi's charm offensive redrawing the global board. It's a story of strategy, survival, and superpower rivalry, and Vietnam's moves could change the game. If you love this deep dive, smash that like button, share your predictions in the comments. Team neutral or team pick a side. Subscribe for more explainers on the world's biggest stories. Thanks for watching, and let's see how this chess match plays out.